Go.
Okay, so The Big Sick is the latest film to be produced by Judd Apatow. Normally, when we talk about films having an overall author, single creative force behind them, 9 times out of 10 it's the director. Occasionally, you'll get a writer like Aaron Sorkin who can impose his vision on or her vision on the film. Very occasionally, a star like Tom Cruise as well. It makes sense to think of Tom Cruise's blockbusters as being Tom Cruise blockbusters because he runs around being invulnerable and always something with an airplane. But normally, you talk about the author or the main creative force as being the director. Judd Apatow is different, though. If you look back across, basically from Knocked Up onwards, all of his films take place in this certain milieu. Let's call it Apatopia.
Oh, do we have to?
We do actually have to call it. I've got it written down about 5 times more in my notes here. So we're going to come back to Apatopia. It's a kind of a nerdy but not intellectual setting, normally somewhere on the edge of show business, in stand-up comedy, often but not always. It involves, the films tend to revolve around relationships and moral choices, weak moral choices, turning into strong moral choices made by male characters. And they tend to increasingly now be in a kind of a confessional mode. So you have films like This Is 40 and Trainwreck and Funny People, and also the TV series Girls, which he was heavily involved with.
Yeah.
It's this idea that the creator is kind of mining their own life experience in order to tell a more true than normal, a truer than normal. What's the way of phrasing it? A more kind of something that rings true, a comedy that really rings true and gets to the heart of lived experience. Yeah. That's very much the case, probably more so than anything he's done before with The Big Sick, which has been written by its star Kumail Nanjiani, who's a Pakistani-American stand-up comedian, whose wife, Emily, was for a while in a medically induced coma. Now, that is basically what this film is about. Kumail Nanjiani plays a character called Kumail Nanjiani. And
he's playing himself.
Basically, I mean, a lightly
he's playing himself.
Version of himself. And his wife, Emily, her character in the film is called Emily, but she's played by the actress Zoe Kazan. And here is the moment at which these two first meet after a gig at Kumail's Comedy Club.
Hi.
Hi. Hello.
My name's Kumail.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, we saw you perform.
Now that the niceties are out of the way, I have to tell you that when you yelled at me, it really threw me off, and you really shouldn't heckle comedians. It's so rude.
I didn't heckle you. I just woohooed you. It was supportive.
Okay, that's a common misconception. But yelling anything at a comedian is considered heckling. Heckling doesn't have to be negative.
So if I yelled out like, "You're amazing in bed," that'd be a heckle?
Yeah, it would be an accurate heckle.
Cool.
Oh. Goodbye.
Oh.
So
now
cool.
you can...
I'm going.
You scared my friend off now.
You're chuckling. You're laughing.
Yeah, and so the film sort of folds down the middle, where you have the first part is a culture clash comedy. Kumail comes from a quite strictly religious Muslim background. His parents are in the middle of arranging a marriage for him. Obviously, as you can see from the just tremendous chemistry in that excerpt, that he and Emily fall for one another. And then, so that's basically side one. And then side two is during the coma, when it becomes a sort of a disease of the week film where Kumail ends up befriending Emily's parents, who are obviously from a very, very different background, and he has to get along with them in the hospital. As I said, I think from the clip, you can hear that the chemistry between those two is basically close to perfect. And it's, one of the things that I love about a romantic comedy, which is happens so seldom, is when the film involves you in the falling in love yourself. You're not just watching a couple get together. You're kind of a weird third party who is also getting but not even that. But you're sort of falling for both of them at the same time. Yeah. And I'll admit, when Zoe Kazan, who I generally admire as an actress anyway, I think Ruby Sparks is a really good film that she's done.
She wrote as well.
In this one, yeah, exactly. But in this one, when she's on screen, I find myself just doing. just the most awful noises. I mean, in breach of probably about 50 different code violations. But it's that thing where you're just so happy and so, loving to them getting on. And it's to do with the way they tease each other and the way in which they are with each other, over and above any kind of animal attraction, though there is that too. So for me, the film is sort of built on this absolutely rock solid, ideal romantic comedy core. The stuff around it I didn't find quite so persuasive. Her parents are played by Ray Romano and Holly Hunter, who are both very funny, but to me those characters never quite get past oh, look who we got to play them. There's a slight air of celebrity cameo about it. Something else is that because Camille is a stand-up comedian, there are lots of scenes set around the comedy club. And this is a recurring feature of Apatopia, is that you'll have characters riffing and using parts of their comedy set in real life contexts. And I have to say that I think a lot of the comedy in here I find it quite excruciatingly embarrassing. It wasn't particularly funny compared especially to something like Funny People, which just gets that idea of backstage banter. People will incorporate bits that they've done on stage into what they're saying to each other. The kind of weird professional rivalry, but comradeship as well with it, just didn't, to me, work here at all. As I said, I think the absolute dead centre of this film carries it and makes it work.